there, and the two pieces came down, the front half and the back half. And basically, like, the front half was the head that couldn't move around but had, the beam attack and the aura and that kind of stuff. And then the body didn't have the beam, didn't have the aura, but it had a lot of hit points and it could hit like a truck. Dew on the grass, welcome in. How's it going? Chomp. Yeah. Yeah, they're a Twilight Cleric. So yeah, Circle of the Moon is a close enough statement for it. They're a Moon Cleric. I love how they... I want to work with my players so that they have the most fun possible. And there's not even really tournaments in D&D. Like there's Adventurers League play, but that's not even really tournament. That's just that's just group play that's been organized by modules organized by Wizards of the Coast. And those modules suck, I would like to say. They're terrible, and I never want to run one or play in one. But like, there isn't really it is a fairly big balance change because fire is resisted by the most creatures in the game, right? As a result of that, that means that on average they will do more damage to any given random monster in the game, which seems like a potentially big deal. However, I don't know about your games. I'm not pulling random monsters from the from the monster manual. I'm not grabbing random monsters. I'm creating my encounters. So it doesn't matter what random monsters or any aggregation of monsters is resistant to. And also, I make the rules. Guess what? That ancient dragon, yeah, they were bullied as a kid. right? Like, winning is everybody having fun. You can beat a combat, but you can also lose by beating a combat if everybody was so bored the entire time nobody cared. You know, and I know that that Theo mentioned that last night that they recently done a combat and they were so bored because they spent half an hour smashing against a zombie and it was a foregone conclusion. Move on. We roll dice to figure out if something is or isn't going to happen. If there is no probability of something not happening, then just move on. You guys smash the zombies' head in. Oh, you know, it had 100 health left? Actually, it only had 1. Congratulations. How do you want to do this? How do you guys be little win today? Which, I guess that means that you FK for 5 minutes and missed a bonk. Follow the Franco. Welcome in, Franco. Good to see you. But basically, they were talking about how, you know, they homebrewed the shit out of this game, and we laughed at the fact that no, you haven't. You haven't changed anything. And it became one of those things that was a bit of a meme, right? Is, you know, you got homebrew and we will get there. Finish off this monster. Describe it for me. Whatever. Carolyn actually has a TPK to her name. I don't. To be fair, Carolyn's TPK is a danger room simulation of basically a friend came to Carolyn and went, "Hey, I know you want to run more combats. We need to learn how to play together as a team. We'd love if you could run a combat for us." And Carrot set up a fairly a difficult but manageable combat as long as they were playing well. But they kept the creature in question. I believe it was can't remember which way it went first, but basically at the end of the day, the joke was that it was a character, Mas Ombru, very much homebrew, and our goal became trying to get them to say Ombru on stream, and we actually managed to make them do it, which was phenomenal and hilarious because they were not a very nice person. They were a bad DM, and basically shortly after that campaign ended, they pretty much saw themselves out of every possible community, which was hilarious. So yes, Ombru is what if that was home. Yeah, I need to, like, I think right now it's like 2 millimeters deep, and I need it to be like a 1/4 millimeter deep. It doesn't had a lovely more damage against the monsters guide. Thanks, Stereo. Welcome in. Lovely to see you. We're sanding dice today because we've got an in-person sale on the weekend. And we're trying to get some stuff ready. Currently, we're talking about Killjoy DMs and novelty dice. But yeah, like, so the thing is like, my player asked me if they could reskin Fireball to be psychic damage. And if you look, you know, from a sheer statistic standpoint... Whoa. Songs of the Spellbound Sea. Yeah, I backed a module called Songs of the Spellbound Sea, which is super interesting, and is largely, go figure, based around piracy and pirates, and pirate crews and the like. What's my favorite piece of homebrew to date? Great question. Those are a little lifted. I did not push that lid down hard enough. That one's better. Favorite piece of homebrew to date? Brew than what we do is homebrew, because it's very clearly different. And, yeah, so we ended up, like, one of my favorite pieces of homebrew is probably The Way of the Bob Monk, which was a lot of fun. Carrot is playing a Furbolg monk in the Witchlight campaign. And, yeah, homebrew is the joy of making things ridiculous, right? What does homebrew mean to you? It's the feeling in your heart. But, yeah, like for instance, Carrot's monk subclass that we created for them is... Carrot wanted to play monk because monks are, in theory, really cool. Because for some reason OBS just really likes being the most quiet thing on my computer, which is really annoying. It basically means that if I want to be able to hear anything in OBS, I have to have my sounds turned right up, and then if anything outside of OBS plays, then I get my ears blown out, which is always fun. Is not always the easy part to balance for. Like, for instance, one of my players, they have a character who's a sorcerer, which basically means to be viable, they largely should probably have Fireball, right? They're a forest fae. They're a fairy. Fireball is a little bit horrific in their view, but they're all about manipulation and illusion and stuff like that. So they asked me if we could reskin Fireball to be Psychic instead. And there was, you know, so there was the question of, like, can we make it a different damage type? Because doing fire damage isn't really what my character would do. And, yeah, it's a little goblin paladin that was designed for keeping the party alive for some first-time players. And Twilight Clerics are particularly good at that. They are very, very, very strong at... they have some auras that allow people to max out healing, and they've got... they have an aura that maxes healing and also gives 10 hit points every round. And that's a passive thing that doesn't need to be re-upped or anything, so it's a pretty strong piece overall. Yeah, and then Carrot kept running away, which is fine. Whatever. But, Yeah, they were a voice and had a revolver that they weren't proficient in. That sounds super fun. We just recently fought a big boss in our Wild Beyond the Witchlight campaign, which was a lot of fun as well. And the party really did a fantastic job of divide and conquer, where my player spent the entire time destroying the equipment that was making them powerful. Carrot's character got in melee and just tied them up, and they kept summoning minions, and everybody else was like, no, I don't think you're allowed to have minions. And the DM after the fact is like, uh, looking at it, switching from fire damage over to psychic is actually a fairly substantial balance shift within a certain aspect. Now, the reason I say it's a balance shift is specifically because fire is one of the most. It is the most most resisted elemental damage in the game. Once you discount, like piercing, bludgeoning, slashing from non-magical types. Fire is resisted by the most creatures. Okay. So switching from fire over to psychic, those people are now rolling And given that this is a fairly low-level campaign, we're like 2 years into it, and we just hit level 7. You can't have a class that feels terrible at low levels if you're going to be spending the entire campaign at low levels. So we changed it, and it basically is like a wild magic monk that is built around the idea of protecting their friends. And it is fantastic. And it has been a lot of fun to revisit and go after. Yeah, top of the combat says don't line up, and then does. Like, you know, because it's not like they were worried about metagaming in that aspect of, like... But, you know, I don't think it's a terribly difficult thing to assume that a dragon's going to have some kind of line attack. I will say, Kenny told me about when he ran a Shardland Dragon for his party, and I actually thought it was really interesting, because basically, they were beating the snot out of the dragon, having a good fight, and he basically went, you guys are a little over-leveled for this, so I want to see what this actually looks like. And he had the dragon take off, and a goblin paladin who wore, like, rotted out vestments over some really shiny plate armor he had stolen off a corpse. And it was a very fun character to play, because one of my big things I always maintain is if you're running a new game, running a game for new players, you never want your players to feel like they can't be ridiculous. As a result, you want somebody who's going to be the most ridiculous person at the table. And it gives everybody else the permission to be silly. So, as a result, you had Chonk, who spoke with a really, really squeaky voice.